shoppers plan to put nearly 40% of their holiday budgets towards secondhand gifts. That's not a niche trend. That's a behavioral change.
You had 47% of shoppers planning or considering to sell their own stuff to fund their holiday gifts. And maybe even more interesting that number was 70% for millennials and 57% for Gen Z. How does this buy-sell loop change how you think about customer relationships?
By the way, when I share that story with other lawyers, every lawyer is trying to get out of practicing law. So they're all like, how did you do that? Yes, there is value and you can find great deals, but I do think that there's a story component to all of this as well that's really driving it. We've processed over 250 million items of clothing, and we have a lot of information about what customers are searching across, again, 50,000 brands. What other company has that kind of data over the last 15 years that has a catalog of clothing that's anywhere from 3 months old to 30 or 40 years old? Brands start getting interested in the data. So I would say value is Batman and sustainability is Robin.
I like that.
You're listening to the Retail Razor Show, where your expert hosts and their guests cut through the clutter in retail and retail tech.
Welcome to Season 5, Episode 11 of the Retail Razor Show, the only retail podcast in the top 10 all-time indie management podcast charts on Good Pods, and the highest ranked retail podcast in the top 100 indie marketing podcast charts on Good Pods. I'm Ricardo Belmar.
And I'm Casey Golden. Welcome, Retail Razor fans, to retail's favorite podcast, where we cut through the clutter to give you sharp insights on what's happening in retail today, tomorrow, and where we get real about what's driving the real future of retail.
And today we've got a guest who's been at the center of a pretty big shift in fashion, I would say, where shopping used to mean new, and now it increasingly means secondhand. So we decided to go straight to the pioneers in this space, ThredUp.
ThredUp just dropped their 2025 holiday report, and one line jumped out at us. Shoppers plan to put nearly 40% of their holiday budgets towards secondhand gifts. That's not a niche trend. That's a behavioral change.
Yeah, so we're talking about more than just bargains, right? We'll dig into why people are choosing pre-owned goods for big, meaningful moments. Is it value, uniqueness, nostalgia, even a social signal? And why so many shoppers are selling their closets to fund holiday giving.
We'll also pull the curtain back on how ThredUp evolved from a resale marketplace to a platform that powers other brands' resale programs, why they're leaning hard into AI, and what lowering resale as a service prices means for retailers who want to get in on the game.
Plus, there's policy and real-world friction. And how do laws, logistics, and consumer expectations need to change to make circular fashion more mainstream? And here's something to think about as you listen in to the episode. Looking ahead, will we still own most of our clothes in 5 years? More on that later on.
Our guest today is Alon Rotem, Chief Strategy Officer and General Counsel at ThredUp. He'll walk us through the company's journey, the holiday report's surprise takeaways, and what all this means for retailers trying to compete in a market that's suddenly getting very circular, just in time for the holidays.
So stick around. If you're a retailer, brand leader, or just someone wondering what to buy, this episode just might change the way you think about holiday shopping and gifting. You know, we haven't done a holiday-themed episode in a while, have we?
It's true. I think we opted out of a holiday theme last year, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. So before we dive in, a quick favor from our audience. If you're enjoying the show, why not hit us with a 5-star rating and drop a short review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or wherever you're listening.
And don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube so you never miss an episode.
Plus, be sure to check out the other shows in the Retail Razor Podcast Network: Retail Transformers, Data Blades, and Blade to Greatness.
And of course, you can find those in pretty much any podcast app, including your favorite, or on YouTube channel, where you can watch all of it as well.
Okay, with that said, let's get into it. Here's our deep dive into the resale market with Alon Rotem, Chief Strategy Officer of ThredUp. Welcome, Alon, to the Retail Razor Show.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
We're thrilled to have you on the show. I'm really excited. We've been waiting to do a deep dive episode on what's happening with resale in the fashion and apparel industry for a really long time. So excited for you to share the ThredUp story and talk about the holiday report you recently released.
That sounds great. I've been waiting to talk to you guys too.
Well, that's great. That's great. So before we jump into everything, why don't you give us a quick rundown on your background to kick us off, how you got to your current role at ThredUp and what you've been doing before that?
Sure. So I started off as a corporate lawyer, worked in law firms for about 7 years, and then went in-house to an e-commerce company. And that company was mission driven. It was trying to democratize access to legal services for consumers. And it was a great experience. And I think what happens when you work at a mission-driven company is it sort of ruins you. Because when you are looking for the next role, it has to have a mission and it has to serve like a greater purpose than just profits and growth, as you hear typically in other roles. And so ThredUp was actually a client of mine back when I was in the law firm days. And when I was looking around for the next role, the partner at the law firm that was still servicing ThredUp was like, hey, Alon, you need to go talk to James, who is our CEO. They've grown to the point where they're ready to start an in-house legal department. And you guys got along so well when you were back at the law firm, like maybe you'll hit it off. And so James and I had lunch, and it was really at the beginning of my sort of career journey. And so I remember setting up the lunch. I'll just give you advice on what you should be looking for in a lawyer. I was sort of playing coy about it, and we had a good conversation. And I was like, well, he should have this background. He or she should have this sort of background. But really, I was talking about myself. And at the end of the lunch, we kind of agreed, I'm going to go talk to other companies and see if there's a good fit there. You should go talk to other lawyer candidates and see if there's a good fit there. And then if there isn't, in a couple months, let's get back together and go forward. And that's actually what happened. So we we played the dating game. We kissed a bunch of frogs. And then at the end of the day, decided to work together. And that was like 9 years ago. So it's been a while. And even within ThredUp, I've had a little bit of a journey there too, because I did start off really just standing up the legal department and performing all those legal services in-house and running that show as we went public and everything. But over the course of that experience, I got really interested in the business side. And every time there was an opportunity to have an impact in a business role, I was raising my hand. And credit to James, because I don't think I was necessarily very good at that stuff early on, but he really encouraged me to keep going. And that sort of culminated in a title shift last year from chief legal officer to chief strategy officer.
Well, that's a real amazing journey.
Not a typical journey into getting,
I know, right? Yeah.
Well, but we always say like it's an accidental career.
Yeah. Exactly. Somebody ends up in retail by accident in that sense.
Yeah.
So often.
By the way, when I share that story with other lawyers, every lawyer is trying to get out of practicing law. So they're all like, well, how'd you do it?
How'd you do it? How'd you do it?
How'd you do it? Yeah. Tell me more.
And I'm still in transition because 50% of my role is still legal. So I'm kind of like, I haven't shed that caterpillar skin yet.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Well, at least like all the strategy and like campaigns and all of that, like it's already gone through legal.
Right. Exactly. I can fast track it.
Yeah. You can fast track yourself. Yeah. That's great. So let's talk a little bit more then about ThredUp's history now. So ThredUp started as a direct-to-consumer resale marketplace and then expanded into what, just before we recorded, we were talking about this amazingly brilliant move to go into resale as a service in a B2B capacity with other brands, where you run the resale program for those brands. And if I remember from our previous conversation, that's a pretty significant portion of the business now. So tell us how that shift happened and what kind of pushed you from making that choice to go from just pure marketplace to more of a services company.
Sure. Yeah. When I started at ThredUp, at least, we're an independent marketplace reselling like 50,000 different brands. In some respect, like within the retail industry, it felt like it was ThredUp against the world, right? You have the brands over on this side, you had ThredUp over here. They were frustrated with what we were doing. But as a company grows and matures and starts thinking about partnerships and how to integrate itself in an ecosystem, we started having those conversations with retailers and brands. And it became clear that there were some natural points where our businesses could help each other. So we're looking for more points of distribution for our clean out kits, and brands and retailers have lots of customers with closets full of clothes that we really think should be coming into ThredUp on a circular basis. And because the business is built on consignment, there's economic value in each one of those items of clothing, and there's room to share that economic value with the brand. That's how the partnership thinking started. And over time, that partnerships grew up, and we decided to build a real business around it. And that is what we coined the term resale as a service, I think back in 2017 or 2018. And from there, it was all about a couple things. One was the cleanout kit program, where again, we could offer our services to the brand's customers. And instead of just getting a cash consignment payout for ThredUp from the items that they sold online, we could really move that money into a gift card for the brand. So it became a loyalty program, which brands totally understand and fit into their strategy.
Yeah. And
we really tried to develop it as a win-win-win, where ThredUp was going to get more supply, the brand was going to get funded gift cards that would have upspend on the gift cards. It's really going to drive their business forward. And the customer's happy because they've got space in their closet. They're loaded with a gift card to spend on a brand that they already have affinity to. And so we saw that model work. Now, beyond that, there were also the even more forward-thinking brands that are hey, resale is happening. We see the data. It's clearly a trend that's not going away. And it's becoming a normal part, not just of a consumer's closet, but really of wallet share. And so the brands that were ready to actually stand up a resale shop quickly figured out it's not that easy to do it internally because they're just not set up to do it.
Yeah.
And so when we saw that opportunity, we were oh, we can build this for you. It's really easy for us because that's what we do all day, every day. And there was born the two sides of the resale as a service offering. We're constantly working on other innovations to make it even more compelling and to really round out the services. But that's really kind of the way that we got started with the B2B program.
When I saw the press release, I out loud was smart, 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 smart. Just this is really smart, because I've spent my side on, let's say, the fancier side of retail. And there's all of this talk and communication about being a more sustainable consumer. And I'd catch some flack, and I'm listen, the resale market doesn't exist if nobody's buying full price.
Right.
Otherwise, we're all fighting over 30-year-old clothes if we don't get new stock in there. We need the closet cleanouts. We need customers to be buying full price, but we have to have the whole loop.
Yeah.
We don't have the whole loop.
It is a circle.
Yes, there is a problem. But I really feel having a customer resell their product, get a gift card to go back to the brand and buy new products really helps fuel an actual sustainable model.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously we totally agree with that. And even though we've had a lot of success with the resale as a service program, I think we still were a little bit frustrated with the scale of adoption on it. And so back in May, we did a strategy shift even within resale as a service. And what we decided to do is we looked at the program over the past few years. We thought that we were going to generate meaningful fees from the program that were really going to move the ThredUp overall business forward. And we were generating fees, and the business was fine and profitable within ThredUp. But as we dug deeper, we realized the real value is the supply, not the fees. The fees that the brands give us really don't move the needle the way scale on supply is going to move the needle for ThredUp, because ultimately we're this large managed marketplace. And any marketplace really survives. You got to have demand, sure, but it really thrives on abundant supply. And so we did away with the upfront monthly fees for brands to lower the barrier of adoption. Because what we want is that there's always a champion in a brand that's, hey, we got to do a resale program. These ThredUp guys or whatever other branded resale service company out there can really help us dip our toes and get into it. Yeah. And we can show them the ROI of how it's going to build, but there's so many competing priorities inside of a brand that they're fighting up against another thing that somebody else wants to do internally. And so we thought to ourselves, why are we creating this fee barrier? Why don't we just do away with it and make it really easy for the internal champion to sell the idea with really low risk. And we've really found a lot of interest in that. That's created a lot of momentum, and we're really excited about where this is going to take the resale as a service into next year and the next few years. And the other thing I'd say is it's something that only ThredUp can really do. It's a really unique ability, and it's because we didn't stand up a branded resale company on its own. It's really leveraging the infrastructure, the scale, and the success of the managed marketplace that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the infrastructure and workflows really where you guys can win big and where a lot of people have lost in the past, right? It's complicated. It's always complicated. Yeah. Retail's so freaking complicated. We're just trying to move laundry here. We're all schlepping laundry. I would think that it would be like such a complex supply chain. Can you walk us through a real example if a brand wanted to launch resale with ThredUp? What does that look like day one? Sure. And then like in 6 months? Because this is new for a lot of brands. Maybe they haven't even heard of it, or they've been thinking about it, but there's, okay, like I don't even know what type of resource I would need on my end.
Right.
Yep. So I agree with you that retail is complicated. Resale might be even more complicated.
More complicated, yeah.
We've invested over $400 million over the last decade and a half in infrastructure just to build it up and make it work. The good news I have to share with you, and I guess any brand that's listening, is standing up a resale program with ThredUp is actually surprisingly easy. So when we first start talking to a brand, even before we get to signing a contract, there is a lot of education. So we're trying to teach the brand like how ThredUp works, the scale that we operate at, what our distribution centers look like, all of that stuff. But in terms of standing up the program, after they decide, yes, I want to get into this, I want to have this loyalty program, or I want to have a resale shop that's branded for me. Once we figure out really what opportunities the brand is trying to go after, it's so easy. Like in a matter of days, we can stand up a clean out kit program. It mostly consists of a digital landing page that we can connect to their website, where a customer would come, they would see the brand's imagery, they'd order the brand's clean out kit, and the customer experience would be a parallel, similar journey to what it is on ThredUp. They get a bag, they put all the clothes in, there's a prepaid label on it, they put it on their porch, or they send it off to UPS, and like the work is done. Then the magic of ThredUp happens, all the processing of the clothing, the listing of the items, the selling, and the payout calculations. We do that on the back end with ThredUp. And then we come back to the brand and tell them, here are all of the customers that sent in a bag. Here's what their payouts should be. We can connect this to your automated gift card program and automatically send out the gift cards to the customer. Customer gets it, they're shopping, and they're happy. So it's actually really simple.
Yeah.
If the brand has physical stores, we create physical cleanout kits that are co-branded. They look really pretty. They have the brand's logo on them, and they get put into the stores. And our client success team has like a training program. So we can teach your store associates how to talk about sustainability, how the program works. It's actually really nice because a customer comes in, maybe they're looking for clothes, but like there can be like a non-sales, like fun sustainability conversation they can have with their customers too.
Right.
And that's really that's all it takes for that brand. So in a matter of days, they can get up and running. We have to print some physical kits and we ship them to the stores, but it's really very simple. On the resale shop side, it's actually not that much harder either. Like we have a product team that's already built out like what these resale shops should look like. We need a lot of brand assets from the brands, but they have those readily available. So the shop looks like true to the brand's aesthetic. But because we have 5 million items for sale on ThredUp at any given time, we've already got thousands of items of the brand that we can cross-list right into inventory. And then if the brand has excess inventory or things that they want to sell, maybe worn returns, they can list them directly. Or if they don't have anyone to do that, they can just ship it to us. We can process it.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Smart.
Yeah. I mean, when you are ThredUp is a business that's like really been built on physical infrastructure. We touch things. We have all of these items in our distribution centers. When we're already built for that, it's not hard to turn it over to however the brand wants it to look. because the back end is already there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hindsight is it's a natural progression, right?
Yeah.
But
we're excited about it, and we invest in resale as a service because, Ricardo, as you said, it's become a meaningful channel of supply for us.
Right.
And we get to pick and choose the brands that we work with.
Mm-hmm.
And we're really interested in the closets of these of the customers of these brands. So it's a symbiotic relationship. And at the end of the day, especially with the way that we've changed our business model, the interests are really aligned. We just want to help the brands scale this. We want to help them lean in, and they are going to make money doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're really not asking them for a heavy lift either, because you're really taking on I would think that the most challenging part for a brand who would be trying to do this is how are they going to manage the inventory of the resale goods, right? And you're basically taking that from them and just running it, and they don't have to worry about it.
They have better things to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Always say, let the brand just focus on
what they know how to do
and selling a dream. Just sell a dream.
And Casey, as you asked me that question, it just reminds me, like, ThredUp's DNA is about convenience, right? Our cleanup kit is just about helping customers get stuff out of their closet and not have to work very hard doing it. So that ethos, we feel that same way about our brand clients. Like, we know you have other things to do. You have your core business to run. Let us help you do this and let us do the hard work.
I think it's great. They say going public changes everything. And then nobody talks about anything anymore.
Yeah.
What were some of the toughest like challenges you faced becoming a public company? And how did that shape your strategy and how you look at the business today?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you intimately, even from the legal side, because when I joined ThredUp, I remember, a long time ago, it was like, oh, we need a lawyer. We're going to go public in 18 months, and we need to build out our back office in order to be able to do that. Well, that process did not take 18 months. It took like more than 4 years. And because we went public during COVID, we started it, and we were like 6 months into the process. And then like the world changed on us, and we had to stop the process. And then when it became like more clear that like the world wasn't going to end and capital markets were going to keep going, we had to do it again. So it really felt like we went public twice internally. And so that part was really interesting. But in terms of the era in which we went public, this was like the zero interest rate policy era where the investor community really just prioritized growth at all costs.
Right.
At all costs. So we built a strategy entirely based on growth, as did many other companies that went public with investor bases perfectly comfortable with these companies losing lots of money so long as there was a growth story. And so even as we were going public, I remember our CEO came to me and our CFO and was like, hey, this is a growth story. So as soon as we get this money, we're going to go acquire another business to build on the growth. So we ended up buying a European business called Remix that was essentially resale for Eastern Europe. And it was a really interesting company, but it was an early stage company and also still very much figuring out its way. And so less than a year into being public, all of a sudden the investor appetite changed, and now it was like profits at all costs, not growth. And so and when a company is built for a certain strategy, it's a little bit like an ocean liner when you tell it to take a hard left. And so learning how to figure out how to balance the growth story with a profitability story was hard. And I think we learned that the markets are harsh, they are impatient. And even if you just track our stock price from back then, I think we went public at $14 a share, and we grew from there. And several years later, as we still hadn't figured out how to show profitability, we were below $1. And so we had to make the hard choice to divest from the European business and really reveal that the core US business was actually quite healthy. And that took a long time. And so now we're on the other side of it, and we're really excited about where we're at. And we see investors really excited about resale, excited about ThredUp. But it's been an up and down story for sure. It's not been
Yeah.
the linear process.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great turnaround story.
Yeah,
Sure.
it is. And the positives of being a public company, I would say, are it forces you to be extremely disciplined about investments, right? And even as we plan the next quarter or the next year or the next 5 years, we're not just being thoughtful about where we want ThredUp to be on the core business. We have to really balance like incremental improvements with nonlinear growth from new vectors. And it makes us a better company ultimately.
Yeah.
I think it's like pressure creates diamonds. If it doesn't break you, you create a diamond.
Right. That's right.
We're hoping that we're a diamond.
That's right. Well, let's dig into an investment as well, because it's impossible these days to have a retail discussion without talking about AI. So from that perspective, I mean, you've made I would say pretty heavy investment in AI tools, right? Whether it's around image search, natural language, visual search, the daily edit, attribute tagging. You have AI generated model images, all around, built around making discovery easier. So how does all of this tech investment around AI that you've done really make shopping for secondhand items less frustrating, more fun? How do all this really impact at the end of the day things like conversion and retention and new buyer acquisition?
Yeah, I mean, at ThredUp, I can share with you, we're extremely bullish on AI. And I think early on, our CEO kind of made it clear we were going to lean into this new technology. And I think it's because the problem, you mentioned discovery, the problem that we face, or the challenges we face as being a resale company and selling 5 million snowflakes, unique items, single SKU items. In our marketplace are really well suited to be enhanced by AI. And so it's naturally harder to shop on secondhand or thrift shop than it is to shop new. There's much more variety in the items. And we started using this term internally at ThredUp called thrift overwhelm. Like, it's really easy to get overwhelmed with how many things there are there for sale. And with AI capabilities, like you said, on search, where it can be conversational the same way it is on ChatGPT or something like that, we're really able to help consumers find what they're looking for a lot easier. And it's more fun. Like, when I'm at dinner parties, I love showing off the image search, where I'll just take a picture of somebody at dinner with their permission, with their outfit, and I go, watch this, and I'll show them on the app. And we've got so many items that are similar. Like, this is how you can do it.
Yeah.
And people are blown away by it, and that's exciting, because at the end of the day, the idea here is for AI to help level the playing field between what it's like to shop secondhand and what it's like to shop new. And
I don't mind scrolling for a while, especially when it's like resale. Like, I'll scroll.
Well, that's good. I love that we have you
I'll scroll. But it is also my biggest pet peeve, and why I choose one over another, because I feel you have two very distinctive customers. You have people like me that knows what the print was in spring of 2006 Pucci. I know exactly what was spring design was. I know the print from Resort. I know everything about a product that I'm looking for, and I know what season it was. And that's where I get like the biggest pet peeves of, I'm looking for D&G. I am not looking for Dolce & Gabbana. They are not the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if I'm looking for something that's pink, I don't want the brand that has pink in it. I'm looking for the color, or just that search, the sizing, things of that nature. You've got the really educated person who plans for that, right? And then you've got the person that is just discovering everything, every brand, discovering their style. It's such a great way to try different things without making this huge upfront investment, because we do go many, many years trying to discover what our style is. And this is a great way to play with different things, learn about brands, discover brands you've never seen before. And you don't know what you're necessarily looking for. And how do you take somebody that wants something or to discover something and start from zero? right? And really start from scratch. And what are we teeing up for this consumer group? So, I mean, search, I just feel such an important piece of resale with the SKU counts and the brand counts.
Yeah, I mean, you would have the most fun conversation with our marketing team because they definitely think about our customer base in different personas.
Yeah.
And we are trying to serve each persona a little bit differently. So you're right. For some people who know exactly what they're looking for, we just have to have amazing search so so that the results are super relevant. And frankly, that was a hard thing, a thing that wasn't even that great, I would say, a couple of years ago. But we've really made leaps and bounds, and AI has been at the center of that improvement. I would say even beyond the ability to serve up relevant content for people that are searching for what they want, really the next phase is getting great at curation.
Yeah.
Like our job is to show wonderful things that are personalized for our consumers. I think AI does a wonderful job of helping supercharge personalization. And if we're really playing at the highest level, we're ultimately going to be serving our customers things that they didn't even know they wanted. But when they see it, they're like, yep,
I gotta have it. Yeah.
I love that. And I'm excited. So,
well, you curate a Y2K collection for me and I'll see you every week.
Okay. Deal.
There's the challenge.
Because I'm actually finding more joy. Like I'm not happy with shopping today, regardless of the spend. I'm not really inspired. I'm not impressed by a lot. I feel like a lot of stuff is not really merchandisable. I can't walk in and leave with an outfit or pieces that all mix and match, or everything just essentially looks the same. It's the same thing in every single store, and I'm not loving the quality. So I'm going backwards to a four-year period in like the mid 2000s when the contemporary industry became a contemporary industry. And all of these contemporary brands launched because I'm like, amazing fit, great style, great freaking quality. And everybody bought so much during that time period. Nobody wore anything twice. I mean, maybe they wore the jeans like 5 times, but we all had 40 pairs of jeans in our closet. Or 100, right? Everybody was buying a new pair of 7s and a top and all this stuff like every week. And so I'm just like, yeah, I just want the Y2K stuff. And through this stuff. I'm not inspired today on the full price racks.
I feel like that stuff was built to last too a little bit better as well back then. It was just more well constructed. And it's actually interesting for me to hear your perspective on what you're unsatisfied with and what sort of you long for nostalgically.
Well, I find that it's just like I've made a lot of nostalgic purchases lately. And I think that that's very interesting because I wanted to go buy something new for so long. And then when I could, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm buying something old.
Yeah. I mean, we're finding that even as we looked at our holiday report that we just put out recently, and we were paying attention to how much millennials are into it, I think part of that really is the nostalgia. Like they're tapping into kind of an earlier era and finding that resale is like a gateway to that nostalgia. And that's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's dig in a little bit more into the holiday report because there's, I think, some really fascinating insights that came out of that. I'll start with just a basic level thing where I think the number one thing that came out of it is this notion that consumers in general are looking to spend nearly 40%, right, of their holiday budgets on secondhand gifts, which is a significant increase just from regular everyday shopping. So are you finding that this is a unique, quirky seasonal shift because of where things are at this year? Or do you think this is more of a systemic kind of change going forward that's going to last?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll admit I was surprised at how great the numbers looked. We've been at this for 15 years and we've been part of the story of the destigmatization of secondhand and the rise of resale. But historically, as we've gone through the fiscal years, we've always accepted the fact that in resale, Q4 is not quite what it is for all the other retailers that like really get into the black and have these great surges. And part of that, I think, was the status quo of the way the consumer mindset was. But I think also part of it was maybe even our own doing, because we would bring down our marketing spend in Q4 because we just didn't find that the juice was worth the squeeze. But I think as the long-term destigmatization has happened, and we're seeing it generationally, that like younger consumers are more and more into it, and it's become much more mainstream. I think that, and now we're increasingly bullish on what holiday could be for resale. And it starts with the consumer surveys and the data. So that's why we were super interested to find out this information. And I think just going back to our conversation about nostalgia, I think that people are looking for stuff that evokes emotion. They're looking, Casey, you said this, even everything looks the same. They're looking for uniqueness. And then, yes, we are also in a period of time where the consumer, at least the bottom 90% of consumers, if you will, are strapped for cash, and resale offers a way to stretch the dollar.
Yeah.
And so you put all the confluence of all those things together, and you're finding consumers much more open-minded and interested in secondhand.
Yeah, I find this very interesting. I could dig into this holiday report with a little pen and a few highlighters and keep you busy for a few hours.
Highlighters, maybe?
Yes, bring that. I have the pastels.
I believe you.
Hey, I've got a whole wall. I obviously like color. The report shows that like the top reasons shoppers turn to resale is better value, like 62%. And unique finds, like you mentioned. What are some of the top gifting lists? Are they like accessories and apparel? Is it going back to like vintage? When someone buys like a secondhand gift, are they mostly hunting bargains, or are they looking for kind of like a story?
Yeah, it's a mix. I definitely, accessories are very popular as gifts. I think part of that also is because there's less of an issue with fit.
Yeah.
You know, you can find vintage sunglasses and scarves and things like that really easily. But dresses are the number one category on ThredUp, and those are really popular as well. And even beyond ThredUp, beyond apparel, we're finding, like even trinkets and electronics that are vintage. People love gifting those like electronic cameras that were super popular 15, 20 years ago before the iPhone kind of took that over. So I think that there is value and you can find great deals, but I do think that there's a story component to all of this as well that's really driving it.
When I go through, I mean, I just find consumer behavior in general and why people pick certain things and where that intrinsic value is, right? I've always loved jeans because you make so many memories in your jeans. So you'll hold on to jeans even if they don't fit for 15 years because like you went to this concert, you went to this, you went to that, and you went to Europe for the first time. So many of our clothes like can carry these memories. And I find it interesting when people are willing to part with something. Because I've been in closets and I've had to put it in a pile saying, prove it. This goes, this stays, it's getting hung up. Here's your pile that you need to fight for this and state your case. Because you can't have 3 drawers full of concert t-shirts. It's not happening. This is my closet now. You need to make a pick. You need to pick. And you're going to have to wear it.
Which of these children are my favorite?
Right? Exactly. Which of these children are your favorite? You can't have them all. And I think it's very interesting when you see this, how people value things. The more I love it, the more expensive I list it. Because I really don't want to get rid of it, but if you really want to pay me enough, like it's yours. Yep. How should retailers and brands, are they using these signals that from you to merchandise and market and curate assortments? Because I assume like a sell-through through you could potentially signal like a recut. Or seeing how much people are selling these for a specific pair of overalls that I am searching for from like 1996.
Yep.
They're everywhere for like over $400. And I'm like, oh my gosh, would they just remake them? And I'll just go buy a pair because I think they cost me like $52 and that was expensive in 96. Like we're paying $400 for this, $800 for an old leather or denim jacket from 2003.
Yeah. I mean, some brands are really interested in doing that specifically. They want to either build a capsule collection or do a vintage drop or something like that. and we can definitely help them do that. But beyond even the merchandising side, it's really about the data. We've processed over 250 million items of clothing, and we have a lot of information about what customers are searching across, again, 50,000 brands. Let's think about what other company has that kind of data over the last 15 years that has a catalog of clothing that's anywhere from 3 months old to 30 or 40 years old, and across the breadth of the brands. And so the brands start getting interested in the data, and
I find that more interesting.
Right. I mean, you must have amazing trend level data.
I'm more interested. I find that more interesting than Google search history for the last 12 months. I'd rather look at the search history from ThredUp for the last 12 months.
Yep. No, it's fascinating. And we have a whole data science team that like every day will put out a nugget to the broader company about, did you know that searches on this specific type of thing are way up? Or we're surprised that like in our supply chain that there's such a demand on this specific thing. And then you extrapolate out, you understand the trends that are happening out there in the world. We've got a wonderful head of merchandising that really connects the dots between the data and the lived experience of our customers.
Yeah, no, that's really fascinating because you have a unique ability to look at that trend data over what items you could go back 10 years, right? And look at a 10-year period and say, what are you getting more search and interest for things from one era versus another, which I would imagine is going to be hugely valuable to designers and to brands to understand what they're doing. I want to ask or shift a little bit and ask back more to the whole state of the consumer that surfaced from the data you have in the report, particularly around how shoppers are planning to fund their holiday shopping. Because obviously this is one nature of your business is how people look at their closet and decide what do they want to put back into this circular resale world that they don't need anymore. And some of the data that stood out to me was that you had 47% of shoppers planning or considering to sell their own stuff, essentially, to fund their holiday gifts. And maybe even more interesting that number was something like 70% for millennials and 57% for Gen Z, who say they're likely to do that. So how do you view that? I mean, how does this kind of this buy-sell loop change how you think about customer relationships? How does that impact customer lifetime value, inventory dynamics, and things like that for brands?
Yeah. So for customers increasingly willing to sell in order to fund their holiday purchases, I would say that's probably a function of two things that we're observing. The first is the state of the consumer, right? Consumers are under a lot of pressure. Their wallets are under a lot of pressure. We're in a tariff environment. Prices are way up on clothes. I think I read an article recently that said even depending on the category, prices of clothing are up as much as 25%. So the pressure is probably a factor in them like figuring out how they're going to fund their holiday purchases, because at the end of the day, Americans love giving gifts. Right. They're going to keep spending. So how do we keep that going? I think the other piece is how much easier it's gotten to sell things. And ThredUp is a part of that, but there's lots of marketplaces where people can get rid of stuff. And if the consumer feels confident that they can turn to that marketplace and earn something for the items that they have, then it's like a positive flywheel, and that keeps going. And so I think that's what's happening. Millennials, you mentioned 70% of millennials being interested in doing that, and maybe a smaller percentage, 57% of Gen Z. I thought that was curious. So when we dug in the data there, I think what we're observing is, millennials have been through a downturn before. They remember 2008. They remember being strapped. And I think they're probably also a little bit more financially mature and more resourceful. And they've figured this thing out. Whereas I think that on the Gen Z side, they're probably just more willing to buy, to spend less or buy cheaper things and find ways of saving that way. But over time, I think as the Gen Z generation grows up, they're going to close that gap and figure it out too.
So according to your report, 2/3 of shoppers are open to giving secondhand, which is a lot higher than I expected. But 80% with millennials? Like, that's significant.
Yeah.
It is significant. And again, I think here, this is where like the storytelling, the vintage items that they're looking for that sort of like evoke memories, like you said, of that concert they went to back in 2005,
right.
capsule collections. They just have a longer, richer history of life. And I think resale really opens the door to accessing that.
Yeah. We had really good brand stories back then too. Like the brand stories, like we were
that too. There was more storytelling.
Yeah. And I mean, I wasn't even in the retail industry back then, and you were, so I'm sure you have more about this than I do. I'd love to kind of
so romancy to the consumer about the brand and how it was made and like everything behind it. And we were romanced. I mean, I think, and it still stays 20 years later, 10 years later, we're still like have some of that nostalgia and the romance that they left us with.
I need to have you on my podcast. I don't have one. If I had one, I'd have you on, and I'd want to hear those stories.
Well, think of all the stories you could tell just based on the products you have, and going back into so many different time periods and layers. I could see that would be super interesting.
Yeah, actually, we recently collaborated with Disney, and we had these capsule collections for all the popular like Boy Meets World and things like that.
Yeah.
That
you can make
really
so many
fun.
interesting associations from cultural activity of the time and what that meant to people. And to Casey's point, right, what were the emotional connections that people associated with those items, that whether they're apparel, accessories, you name it. There's so many different interesting stories, I think, to be told there.
I mean, I came up, since we're talking music and concert, and see these guitars in the background of my screen here. I came up like right at the intersection of like hip hop, grunge, and boy bands. Like right there is kind of what, like that's when we're talking about kind of style. I can't escape that myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love it. So if you haven't been able to tell already, Alon, I come from like the luxury side of retail.
I can tell.
Yeah.
You may have noticed.
I've spent my career on the bougie side. So resale is really important to me because like I am a Bruno Cucinelli obsessed, and I have been for like most of my life. Once I found out what clothes were, like really knew what clothes were. And so if it weren't for resale, I mean, my closet would be really weak. And I think a lot of the companies over the last couple decades that have tried to play in this resale space have all gone towards luxury. You guys really made a hard stand on a larger brand assortment and mid-market. And how do you guys balance that like appetite between premium and luxury and the marketplace and resale and like that broader like sustainability claims, right? And how do brands ensure that authenticity and circular impact are visible to shoppers, right? I mean, I think we just had somebody go to prison for 7 years for buying designer and then returning it a fake to Nordstrom or something. She did it 232 times.
Well, it wasn't an accident, in other words.
Yeah, no, it wasn't an accident.
In other words, it was very planned.
But a lot of the luxury brands, they won't even touch authenticity. Even if it's their own and they have CRM showing that the customer bought it, they're just like, we're just not touching it again. How do you reconcile that in your guys' own strategy and legal?
Yes. Yeah. You're talking to the right person. No, I think it really comes down to prioritizing authentication and trust with the consumer, particularly in the higher end goods. But you're right. The majority of ThredUp's business is really about that middle market. Yeah. And we made that conscious decision a long time ago. And it's a lot harder. The truth is it's a lot harder because luxury items, they cost more. They have much more inherent value. And so it's easier for a resale company to find margin in selling a product for $500 an item.
Yeah.
Even if it's secondhand. And so for us, really the key was building out like world-class, never been done before infrastructure to efficiently process at scale 50,000 brands. And so we're processing like more than 100,000 items per day. And we've had to build to that. But once we did it, we knew we had built this really incredible moat around our business.
Right.
Who else wants to do that? Who else wants to invest $400 million in 3 stories of carousels. This thing looks like Monsters Inc. or like The Matrix, like on steroids or something. It's really unbelievable.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, hats off to our industrial engineers. They really built something special, and that's what enables us to process at scale.
Yeah.
But to your question about luxury, again, like authentication matters, and it matters not just to the brand; it matters to the consumer. These consumers that are coming to marketplaces and buying luxury items expect them to be authentic, and so you have to make investments there as well.
Yeah.
But I would also say that when we talk about luxury and sustainability, oftentimes luxury items are among the best made items. They're built to last. They're built to be passed from generation to generation. And to me, that's like a natural sustainability resale story.
Yeah, I always say that sustainability is built into the business. So everybody's like, why don't you have all these sustainability goals? And I'm like, it's by luxury. It's built in. I don't have to think about it.
Fair.
There's no Birkin bags aren't lined up showing up on the beaches anywhere. And if they are, like, I haven't found it.
Yeah, right. And by the way, like even from like a policy standpoint, I think areas where resale companies and luxury companies are standing on the same side of this this battle is like we're looking at the fast fashion world and the waste that's created. And we're either giving products a second life or the luxury brands are building things that are made to last. I think we look at that as very symbiotic.
Yeah.
You're really active on policy and coalition work.
Yes.
How much of scaling resale is about changing the laws and infrastructure? I mean, to have you in strategy also with legal puts you in a very unique position that I can say, like, a lot of people in product or on the business side leading strategy don't have that background to pull in, because you're not just changing consumer habits. We're looking for government and policymakers to pay attention and support our movement. Yeah, on that front, what I would say is, when I came to ThredUp, I understood the point of how resale extends the life of clothing and keeps it out of landfills and really maximizes kind of the usable life of the garment. And it's not hard to understand why that's good. But I don't think I really appreciated just how damaging like the fashion industry is to the environment. And even once I realized it, I didn't see the fast fashion scourge coming either, where you had these companies that were just producing like incredible volumes of clothing extremely cheaply and not really focusing on what happens with all that unsold merchandise, or if it's built to be disposable, like how does that impact our landfills and our environment, and really got a sense for kind of the like potential for destruction that an unchecked industry has.
Yeah. Is there, and do you see a balance, like a kind of one final thing I'm thinking of from the report that kind of relates to what you're bringing up? When you look at a balance between our consumers shopping resale primarily as a value play because they're looking for that value, and I think even in the study you found it was somewhere around, maybe it was 52% are people thinking they're getting more items for less money, which is where the value part comes in, or is there an equal part of sustainability that's driving the story behind that and the motivation for buying, because people feel like they're engaging in a sustainability practice by doing this in addition to getting the value? Is it evenly balanced in your mind, or is one outweigh the other?
Ricardo, that's a great question, because we think about it all day long at ThredUp and debate it all day long, because it wasn't entirely obvious to us. So there's definitely a faction it's all about value, and then there's like the do-gooder faction, which I probably tend to like started out being more was like, no, it's all about sustainability. This is our differentiator. The reality for us today, like as we've observed the consumer habits over the last decade or so, is value really is king. Consumers are primarily looking for great value, and resale is delivering that.
Yeah.
But what I'd say is that the environmental or the sustainability side as like a secondary factor, it's not insignificant, and it's a real differentiator, because there's lots of places that consumers can come and find value. They can find value at off price. They can find it in fast fashion. They can find it in a lot of different places. but the feel good sustainability side that resale brings to that, like the values and value proposition is legitimate, and it does play a significant role. So I would say value is Batman and sustainability is Robin.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a great way to put it, because it really is like this ideal team up that you have that in some ways it increases the value, right? It augments the value part of that equation. I think in a meaningful way that makes people feel good about it. Yeah, no, I think that's great. So maybe to close this out, let's look ahead a little bit. If we were fast forward 5 years from now, do you picture people are owning fewer clothes, leaning into more rental subscriptions or other brand different kind of circular closets? Or are people still going to be thinking in terms of ownership of these items first and everything else second? Where do you see ThredUp and your brand partners playing in that shape, and how you're impacting fashion in general?
Sure. I mean, I'll start by saying I love that there's lots of different models out there in the industry between what some of these companies are doing on rental and others doing on managed marketplaces or peer-to-peer marketplaces. It's great that there's a variety. I feel kind of agnostic about the rental versus ownership debate or question. What I'd say is ultimately these closets are going to be much more circular, and there's going to be like a dynamic velocity to them. So you could rent it and wear it and love it and send it back and get like your next kind of monthly shipment of things that are rented and wear them. Or you could buy them knowing that you don't have to keep them in your closet for 30 years because they don't bring you joy anymore. Or Casey, as you put it, how did you say, is it worth it, or prove it?
Prove it. It was like,
prove it.
My proving file.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's two sides of the same coin. As long as the things that are in your closet are things that you love, things that you want to wear, and the things that are no longer in your closet are not just getting thrown out curbside, but they're coming back to a resale market to find a second owner. To me, that's what's important. So circularity can take many forms as long as there's like a dynamic closet.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and you mentioned, is sort of like the future. What does the future look like? Beyond just like what's in our closet, it's like, how are we finding the things? How are we getting inspiration for things that we want to buy or rent and put in our closet? And there, to me, again, like we had that conversation about artificial intelligence and AI tools and how that's going to change it. At the end of the day, I would be so happy to come back to you 5 years from now and share that like most shopping journeys, like the discovery, the excitement, the inspiration, all of that starts at ThredUp, and who knows where it goes from there.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Yep.
My one wish for the holiday season.
There you go. That's perfect. Yep.
Well, Alon, I have to say, I'm coming away from this like deep dive with a new admiration for the resale industry, because I don't really dig into it too often, but I'm definitely a user, consumer, and mad respect for ThredUp. I mean, we all want to do business with passionate operators and people who really care. And it's very obvious that you care, and you have the support of the founders and the rest of the executive team to really be spearheading not just the business objectives, but, policy and change. It's really about the long tail strategy, not just short-term wins. So super impressed. Thank you so much for joining us today and digging in.
Thank you for having me. This was fun, and I appreciate you guys letting me tell the ThredUp story.
Yeah, this was a super fascinating discussion. I think there's just so many interesting things that we can see just from your holiday report about what consumers are thinking, how they're reacting and engaging in the resale market, incorporating that into their overall holiday buying mix. I really think it's going to be fascinating to see how the season plays out and what the future holds broadly, right, for ThredUp, because you guys are doing such amazing things.
We're obviously going to be paying attention as well. Yeah, appreciate your interest.
Yep. So before we sign off, Alon, if any of our listeners want to know more about ThredUp or the holiday report, or just want to get in touch with you to understand how they can build a resale strategy with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Best way would be to go to our website, RaaS.thredup.com. So that's RAAS .thredup.com. Or you can also send an email to RaaS@thredup.com. Either way, hopefully we're not too hard to find, and definitely would love to talk to you guys and also to brands if they're interested in doing something. Appreciate it.
Yep, excellent. We'll be sure to put that in the show notes as well.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Alon. It's been great having you here with us today. Ricardo, I'd say this episode is a wrap. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Good Pods. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast player or on YouTube so you never miss an episode. I'm Casey Golden.
We'd love to hear from you. Follow us and share your feedback at Retail Razor on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram. You can also subscribe to our Substack newsletter for highlights from every episode and visit retailrazor.com for transcripts and more details about all of our amazing guests. The Retail Razor Show is the original show in the Retail Razor Podcast Network. I'm Ricardo Belmar.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, stay sharp, stay human, and stay ahead. This is the Retail Razor Show.